welcome to Live, Laugh, Learn TV. I'm Carol Morgan.
And I'm Jeff Louderback. Thanks for joining us again, and we're glad to have Miss Jamie Wray on the set again. She's our guest co-host and guest columnist for Live, Laugh, Learn TV.
Oh, thank you for having me back.
Yeah, obviously we had some great banter before, and today we have a topic which really affects everyone in their personal lives and professional lives, whether you're in a new relationship, a long relationship, you're with your career,
it
with
doesn't have to just
any
be a
aspect of personal and professional lives, whether to go with your head or your heart in a decision. And what do you think about this, Doc? You are you're the guru, and
the guru of this, the know-it-all, the wizard. No, I don't know. No, I'm kidding. I have struggled with this my whole life. I don't know if everybody else does, but I think I don't know why. I think I'm a balanced person in a lot of ways, and in some ways I'm very logical. You know, like I do like to go with the facts. I do like to look at things objectively and what makes sense, but yet sometimes what makes sense doesn't feel right, you know? And so I think I'm slightly more logical, and so I think not so much now, but when I was younger, I think I used to go with my logic more, like, well, this feels right, but it doesn't make sense, so why would I do it, even though it feels right? But I have had several instances in my past where I have either followed my heart, like for instance, I'll just give you an example. Years ago, I had just graduated from graduate school, and I had a one-year teaching position at Ohio University. And that's where I met my now ex-husband. But anyway, that's besides the point.
Future show.
Maybe it didn't work out so well. No, I got two great kids out of him. But I met him when I had already a job offer at Missouri State. And so I had to go there. And anyway, long story short, he was going to move, but then he got a better job offer here in Dayton. And he was living actually in Athens. And so we're like, well, now what do we do? You know, he has this great offer, and I had this job, and you know, anyone in academia knows that you can't just like move to any city and find a job because there aren't that many jobs as a communication professor in any given city. So, you know, when he first told me that, he didn't say, oh, by the way, I'm taking the job. He's like, what do you think? What should we do? And I felt like a bomb was dropped on me. I'm like, oh my God, you know, like my whole life is ruined. You know, I had this future plan. We had this future plan. But then I woke up the next day and I'm like, I need to move to Dayton. And like, part of me was like, are you crazy? You know? And then the other part of me says, that's the right thing to do. That it was like my intuition speaking to me. And I thought I was absolutely insane, but I knew I had to do it. And that was probably like the strongest example of my life of when I followed my intuition when it seemed like the worst thing. It's not like being a computer programmer where I can just live anywhere in the world.
Or a nurse.
Right. I mean, like, there's University of Dayton, there's Wright State, there's Sinclair, that's pretty much it. And if they don't have an opening for a communication professor, I don't have a job, you know. So it's kind of like committing professional suicide. I mean, I never knew if I would teach again. But I'm like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. And, you know, we did end up getting married and having two great kids, and it was good for a while until it wasn't. But that's another topic for another show. What about you guys? Have you had times like that where you've either followed your logic, or, you know, your head or your heart, where it worked or it didn't work? I have another didn't work story where I didn't follow my intuition, but I should have. So, do you guys have any?
I do.
Of course.
I do as well.
I think a constant struggle I've always had is my heart and my mind matching up. Because again, I'm like, here are the facts.
Usually doesn't, right? I mean, that's why we're talking about this, because
like, here are the facts. This is what should be happening. Yeah. But again, like inside, the way you're feeling, especially if you're in love and or think you're in love, all that stuff.
Think you're in love.
Then I mean, it's hard. I mean, because one, you go with not how you're feeling and with your logic, and you take that risk, or you just really even following your heart and not the logic, you're taking a risk with that as well. So I know with me, there's been several instances in my life where I'm like, okay, I feel this way, and
you went and did it?
Yeah, I went and did it, and I'm like, oh.
Then did it work? Like, is it disaster?
Yeah, like disastrous.
Yeah. Okay, well, here's an interesting distinction, though, because it depends on how you define your heart or your intuition. Like in my instance, I think it was my intuition saying, do it, do it, do it. I guess my heart was there too, but like sometimes we want to do things that we know are bad for us. Well, did you know it was bad for you though when you followed your heart? Or did you like, well, it'll turn out great? And then
I
like,
did. I
train
think
wreck.
I was trying to be optimistic. Okay. Because I try to look at the best in everything.
Yeah.
Probably why I'm such a forgiver.
Yeah, that can be a problem
Yes,
sometimes.
definitely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess I've had that struggle, and even same thing, like you said, professionally, where it's like, okay, this is a great opportunity. I should be doing this. You know, everything looks good on paper, but inside I'm like, something just
doesn't
is,
feel right.
Yeah, it's just off.
Actually, this isn't really a story about head versus heart, but before I took that job at OU, I had already I had that job offer on the table, but it was only for a 1-year position, and so I'd have to find another job the next year. But I had an interview set up like, the next week for a full-time permanent position, but I need to give them an answer before I had the interview, so I'm like, what do I do? And it was hard to know in that moment which was the right choice, because you have a sure thing on one hand, but it's not long term. And so I went to lunch with my advisor, and she did this little trick, and we were talking about it, and then finally she's like, okay. She took out a quarter. She's like, heads you take their house job, tails you go to Indiana. I'm like, what? I was a little freaked out. I'm like, I can't decide my fate by a coin flip. And I forgot which one it landed on, but she's like, okay, well, how do you feel now? And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I was relieved or not, but whatever it was, I knew what the right answer was, because let's say it turned up on take the job that you have, which is what I ended up doing. Apparently it felt right, but I didn't know that until that moment, So little tricks like that sometimes will show you what you really want. But again, is it what's good for you, which is what your head is trying to tell you. But sometimes even your head doesn't know what's right either. So Jeff, it's your turn.
Yes.
We've been talking.
Well, I've always been the type of person to follow my heart, because that's just my personality.
Has it gotten you into trouble though?
Yeah, well, sometimes when you follow your heart or you take risks, which obviously is another topic, that kind of somewhat go hand in hand. You shouldn't be afraid. I've had times when it's worked out really well, and I've had times when it has not worked out well. Yeah. But still, you should go with, because your heart is your true feeling. So you shouldn't be afraid to show your true feeling and to give it a chance. But sometimes like for example, earlier, I think it was like 2001, 2002, I was engaged, and that's when I moved to Florida. I lived in this area all my life, and I decided to move to Florida with my fiance at the time, because she was from there and wanted to go there. And, she said, I love you, I want to be with you, but I need a change. And so I'm an adventurous person, so I was like, okay, I'll go.
So you didn't have any maybe I shouldn't, because that's a huge thing. There is no part of you that had any kind of argument, I don't think I can do that.
No, I knew I'd miss my family. I'd always done a lot of traveling all my life, but I'd never lived anywhere except Southwest Ohio, the Dayton-Cincinnati area. And obviously, when you reach a point where you're committed to someone like that, you want to do what they want to do, as far as if they are not if they want to take on a new challenge or go somewhere new. I was fine with it, so I went, and then I don't regret it, even though we ended up parting ways like maybe 4 or 5 years later. And then another heart scenario is, I moved back here in April 2015. In December 2014, I came back for the holidays, and I normally stay 4 or 5 days because I wanted to get back to Florida. But I was here for 2 weeks and didn't want to go back. I'd reached a point where my life, I wanted to make changes in my life, and wanted to, with all my communication opportunities. And I was missing my family because my parents are getting older. My grandpa had just passed away, and I was close to him. And so I just, it felt right in my heart to do that. So I packed up everything I had, sold the condo, packed up my dog, and sold everything that I had except what I could fit in SUV and came back here, and it's been a great decision because so many new opportunities, including Live, Laugh, Learn TV. Made a lot of new great friends, a lot of new opportunities, and
But that was a huge risk. I mean, you just like literally picked up your life and moved. I don't think well, I guess I did do that. Come to think about it, I could never do it. Oh, wait.
Well, that's the whole heart. I tend to go more with my heart. And that's the personality. I know on a future show we'll talk about the personality indicators, and I'm the ENFP, which is...
Your ENFP. Oh, yeah, that makes
that's
sense.
A risk taker. That's a heart. That's going more with your heart.
That's why you're always late, the P part. I'm ENFJ.
Hey, I was here before anyone today.
That's true, but it's rare. So you never follow your head?
Well, in my delusional state, sometimes I think my heart is in tune with my head, and sometimes it is,
sometimes it's not.
and sometimes it's not. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we need to define a few terms here. How do you guys, because like I use the word intuition a lot. And so for me, the way I define intuition is something that goes against logic, like my moving to Dayton with no job. I literally felt it, like I felt it in my body, like I need to do this. I don't know why, but I need to, like some sort of force, like, mystical force, like pushing me there. Not just that situation, but any kind of situation. Like I almost feel compulsed to do it because it feels right. But going with your heart, because we kind of are using intuition and heart interchangeably. I think when we say heart, a lot of times we're talking about relationships. Like you might love somebody and be completely in love, but you know that they're a bad boy and they're not good for you, right? Not that Jamie's ever experienced that, right?
The eyes are on Jamie.
her face is like, what, me? A fun fact, though, for anyone who doesn't know this, maybe you guys do, but when you're in love in that infatuated state, they've checked people's brains who are in love and brains who are on cocaine, and it's like the same thing. Like it does the same thing to your brain when you're in love versus when you're on cocaine. So
no wonder I make bad choices.
Exactly. Stop falling in love so much. No. So what do you guys think are the difference between your head and your heart? I mean, no, your heart and your intuition. Do you think there's a difference?
I would say there is. Like when I think about that, I know when I have that gut feeling, that intuition, like something's off, this is not right. It's a different feeling than how it is when I feel like my heart's involved in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So maybe we could define it as your heart being something that you want. You like not immediate gratification, but like I really want that. Even though maybe your head says, that's probably not good for you. But your intuition is maybe more of this feeling of this is the right thing to do, or I should do this, or I shouldn't do that. What about you, Jeff? I mean, do you get like intuitive feelings? And do you think that they're the same thing, your intuition and your heart?
Well, I think it's a little different, kind of similar to what Jamie said, that your heart, you feel tugged at it, and it's emotions and feelings, and intuition is more kind of a gut instinct as far as when you feel something's right or if it's wrong. And usually if you have a strong gut instinct, that's usually right in many cases.
That is true. I'll tell you a story of when I did not follow my gut instinct. Years ago, I had reconnected with an old boyfriend of mine from college, and he lived in Wisconsin, and I lived here, and he had kids, and I had kids. We were both divorced, and we dated long distance for a while, and I wasn't sure if I ever wanted to get married. I told him that, but he proposed anyway. And then he's like, I'm going to move here. And I told him, like, don't move here without a job. We hadn't discussed any of the details, and so long story short, he's like, I'm going to move before this is like a couple months after, he asked me to marry him in June. He's like, I think I should move in August. And I'm like, you don't have a job. I'm not prepared for it, So like when he told me that, it was like somebody was standing on me like, like that feeling of, no, don't do that. I should have been like, yes, move here today. But I had that feeling of, No, like a panic, like a suffocation, and I ignored. Well, I didn't ignore it, but I was kind of in a situation where I guess I found it hard to get out of, which was kind of dumb. I should have just said, "I don't think we should get married," but I didn't. It took me 10 more months to say that.
Relate to that. When I got married, that day I was like, "This is not right. I should not be doing this."
The very same moments before the ceremony?
Same day, yeah.
Oh, that's
like
rough.
But I was like,
but I'm at my wedding.
Yeah,
what am I
let's go for it.
Yeah, how many people don't go through with it? I bet a lot of people have that feeling on their wedding day, actually. But
jitters. That's why I've thought about this, because I'm a licensed wedding officiant and done a handful of ceremonies now, and I think about that. I'm just like with me or with anyone that when you're right there, standing there, right in front of the wedding officiant or pastor, and the speech or the presentation, the speech is being made, and then the vows. You're exchanging the vows. What are you truly thinking? Are you giddy
like,
and you
turn
can't?
Around and
Are you giddy and thinking about looking forward to starting the new chapter in your life, or are you like, am I doing this just to be doing this? And that's what I think a lot of people unfortunately do. They do get married just because society expects you to get married after you've been dating for a certain amount of years, or if you are a certain age and you should be married, society thinks. And I know that's changing a little bit because people are getting married at an older age, and then so many people are getting divorced. But still, it's I think that's a thing that sometimes you feel pressured to do, or that you're supposed to be doing this, and maybe obviously you shouldn't if you are thinking that way.
I think maybe a lot of people wouldn't be married if they followed their intuition.
Yeah, we're relating it back to our topic, and that is interrelated.
Well, I've talked to a lot of, and not to get off the topic of marriage necessarily, but I have talked to a lot of women in particular who, they didn't call it like an intuition that I shouldn't do that, but they were like, "Ooh, I really kind of went through this crisis before," not like on their wedding day, but like close to their wedding day, where like, am I doing the right thing? Oh my gosh, should I do this or should I not do this? And I didn't feel that. On my wedding day, I felt like, oh, I was super happy and it was a great day, and one of my happiest days, even though it didn't work out. But but I can't lie that before the wedding I didn't have this crisis of, oh, should I do it? But I think I had some intuitive red flags that bothered me before I got married, that I was like, well, never mind, it'll be okay.
Right.
But that's kind of ended up not everything that ended up being an issue for us, but part of me is like, well, if you listen to all of your red flags, then you'll never go out with anybody ever again, right?
Well, that's true. That's a good point, because you have to. There's always going to be what could be termed a red or something. No matter how perfect you are for each other, there's always going to be one thing that because men and women, when it's termed with the relationships, obviously with career is different or same too with a potential job change. There's always going to be pros and cons, and in a relationship there's always going to be, even when you are completely compatible, there's always going to be something.
There's no such thing, I don't think.
There's always going to be something
completely compatible.
Well, that's what I'm saying. There's always going to be, no matter how good you are for each other, there's always going to be something you're going to think,
that bugs you about them.
Well, this kind of bugs me, but it's about looking at the big picture, in my opinion.
Yeah, can you deal with it?
Yeah. Is it a big looking at the big picture?
Right. Is this really that big of a deal, or isn't it? And I think as you get older, you realize what is a big deal and what isn't.
And that's interrelated to heart, as far as what you're looking at the big picture, I guess. Which definitely. We need to have a notepad here when we're in our show, so that's a good idea.
Hope you all followed along with us, but we're about out of time though, guys. This went really fast. This was a great topic.
It always does.
Yeah. So, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, but I'm sure this is a topic you can relate to. So, let us know your thoughts. Write us comments, or, get in touch with us if you have any ideas, even for other shows and stuff. But we hope you enjoyed our banter, and we know we did. So thank you so much for joining us, and we hope that you will join us again next time. So until then, thank you, Jamie, for being here. And you too, Jeff. Thank you again, and don't forget to live, laugh, and learn.
Bye-bye.